Hello again, Mercedes here, and this week's Clark Planetarium classroom topic is space exploration. Now, outer space can be really dangerous for humans. Space and humans don't really mix. It's really hot, terribly cold, there's space dust, there's radiation, and there's that whole lack of air thing too. So, what do astronauts do to protect themselves in outer space? We know about the spaceships, but what do the astronauts wear in the spaceships? What about when they go outside of the spaceship? What happens then? What do they wear? Let's find out. So today I'm going to show you guys a really cool artifact that we have on display at the Clark Planetarium. This super cool suit is an Apollo spacesuit. Suits similar to this were worn by Apollo astronauts as they went to the moon and back again. But it was not the first kind of spacesuit to be worn by humans as they explored the great unknown. NASA's astronauts first rocketed into space during the Mercury program. These spacesuits were only worn inside the Mercury spacecraft and were not meant to be worn outside of it. They were only to protect the astronauts in case the Mercury capsule lost air pressure. The Gemini missions introduced suits made for being in the vacuum of space and all of its dangers. During these missions, astronauts embarked on the first spacewalks, a trip outside of the spacecraft. In addition to maintaining air pressure, Gemini suits added layers of fabric for temperature control. Still, Gemini suits did not include their own life support and would have a hose that would connect the astronaut to the spacecraft to supply air. While the Mercury and Gemini spacesuits were made to survive aspects of being in outer space, the Apollo suits needed to be durable enough for the moon's surface. This required major design changes. These suits needed to have their own life support. Being connected to the spacecraft would have severely limited the distance the astronauts could explore on the moon, so the hose had to be eliminated and the suits self-sustaining. An Apollo spacesuit would weigh over 200 pounds on Earth, but only about 35 pounds on the moon. Another important design change were the boots. The Apollo spacesuits had hardier boots than previous designs so they could handle the rocky surface of the moon. Fun fact, this suit is made up of components of several different Apollo suits. Two of the pieces have been to space, the boots and the gloves. The main body of the suit was only used in practice. The most iconic suits of the Space Shuttle missions were the orange jumpsuits astronauts would wear for the launch and landing of the Space Shuttle. I remember as a kid loving wearing costume versions of these when I went to space camp. These suits were only worn inside the Space Shuttle. Going outside for spacewalks meant putting on a very bulky and heavy white suit. The shuttle spacesuit was made of interchangeable parts to accommodate astronauts with different sized bodies. Each of these parts, like the upper and lower torsos and arms, are made in different sizes. The astronauts did not have to worry about the moon's or Earth's gravity weighing them down since they would be in near zero gravity. A space shuttle EVA suit weighed about 280 pounds on Earth. Once in outer space, it weighed nothing. The shuttle program helped with orbital missions in putting satellites into orbit around the Earth, doing scientific studies, as well as repairing satellites such as the Hubble Space Telescope. They even helped build the International Space Station. Spacesuits are changed and designed differently over time depending on the mission to depending on where you're going in outer space. What kind of spacesuits do you think we will see in the future? On October 15th, 2019, NASA introduced the new designs for the suits that will be used in future missions to the moon in the Artemis program. They are an improvement on the previous designs to help us move forward and get back to the moon, hopefully in the near future. I mentioned earlier that the gloves and the boots from the Apollo suit have actually been to outer space, but did you know that we have another artifact here that has also been to outer space? This tire right here may look like a regular playground tire, but it is actually a space shuttle tire. It's been to space on a space shuttle. That's so cool. This tire was part of the space shuttle Atlantis and was used on mission STS-101. During this mission to service the International Space Station, the space shuttle and tire orbited Earth 155 times over 10 days at an altitude of 200 miles. That is a total of 4.1 million miles traveled on this mission. This tire weighs about 250 pounds. The space shuttle, when landing, weighs about 240,000 pounds. These main gear tires can only be used once for space flight. That's because when they land, the landing can be really rough on them. In fact, if you look right here, you can see a flatter part of the tire, whereas the tread comes out a little bit thinner than the rest of it, and that is actually where touchdown occurred, when the space shuttle first touched the landing strip when it came back from its mission. I could go on and on for hours about the space shuttles, the Apollo missions, and more. The most popular question that we get about spacesuits is, how do astronauts use the bathroom? That is a very good question. The answer to that and any other questions you might have about this video are in links in the description down below. Remember, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking up.